बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम students. उम्मीद करता हूँ कि आप सब लोग खैरियत के साथ होंगे and I welcome you all here today to the 14th lecture of Consumer Psychology. So as usual, let us start our day once again with a brief review of what we discussed in our last lecture. Students, our last lecture was a detailed discussion on two of the main psychographic segmentations that we discussed. These included number one, demographic segmentation, and number two, psychographic segmentation. We started out discussing demographic segmentation with a question that what is population? We defined population as a group of people who are living together in a certain place, in a certain area. This group of people can be characterized in terms of many different traits. For example, we may say that the population of a certain country has a particular number of youngsters in them. And when we call youngsters, we may say that these are the teenagers between 16 to 19 years old. We may also say that the population of a certain region has a certain number of children. Then the population can be divided amongst the male and female segments of the population as well. So every time we approach the concept of population, we can in fact perceive about it in terms of many variables that are included in the concept of population. We then discussed that demographics is segmentation is the vital and measurable statistics of a certain population. Included in the demographic segmentation are variables such as people's age, their gender, their income status, their occupations, etc. And the variables that we discussed yesterday were number one, age, number two, gender, which included male and female, number three, income, number four, occupation, number five, education, and number six, household. And we discussed all of these variables one by one in a bit of detail with reference to the marketeers segmenting their target population according to all of these variables. When it came down to age, we mentioned that age is the chronological age of an individual, and marketeers frequently categorize their population with reference to age. And the popular example goes something like this, that the diapers advertisements are always concentrating the babies, the toddlers, and toys are always for the children, and entertainment is always for the people who are over 19 years of age. At this point, we also discussed two kinds of effects with reference to age. These included number one, age effect, and number two, chronological effect. Talking about the age effect, we were referring to the chronological age of an individual, and we mentioned age effect includes occurrences due to the chronological age of a certain individual. When children are born and when they are toddlers, they have certain specific requirements. When they grow up and they start going to school, they have certain other requirements that need to be fulfilled, and their consumption patterns or purchasing habits start developing. Then they become very specific and exclusive about their choices, and there are a lot of marketeers who are specializing in targeting the teenagers, and they are making and developing the products which exclusively concentrate over the teenager population and attract them. Then there are middle-aged people, and then finally there are seniors. And with reference to every age group that we have talked about here, the product preferences and consumption behaviors go on changing. So this is relevant to the chronological effect of the age. But we also discussed the cohort effect. Students, when we talk about cohort effect, it means occurrences due to growing up in a certain time period. And we started discussing this concept with reference to the example of music. I asked you a question as to, have you ever noticed that people who were young, say way back in 1970s or early 80s, they sometimes tend to listen to the music that was popular in their time period. These are the people who were young between the ages of 70s and 80s. And this music still has a huge appeal for them. The next variable that we discussed in the demographics was gender. This is a very obvious fact that every population consists of a certain number of males and a certain number of female population. And matter of fact, every product manufacturing industry that you would come across, or any other industry or institution or organization, they specialize in male-oriented products and specialize in the female-oriented products as well. And similarly, when we talk about the services, then the orientation can also be categorized with reference to the gender. There are male-oriented services and there are females-oriented services as well. So if we talk about the clothing industry, there are marketeers who are specializing in the female clothing industry, and there are marketeers who are specializing in the male's clothing industry. Same is the case with the medical products. Medical products are designed keeping in view the specialized needs of the females, as well as the specialized needs of the males as well. We talk about the sports products, then you must have seen that sports gadgets are also designed keeping in view that who is going to use this particular gadget. Either this is being made for the females or is it being made for the males. So with reference to every industry or products manufacturing company, when we talk about the products, then we can easily see that the products are usually specialized with reference to gender as well. At this point, we discussed that in the current age, the gender roles are usually blurring into each other, which means that you would exceedingly find out that males are into purchasing kinds of products that were previously used by the females. Males are exceedingly interested in purchasing different items, different products and different brands that were previously considered to be used mainly by the females. And similarly, you would find out that females are getting into the males' occupations as well. They are working side by side with the males, and since they are working in the males' occupations, then you would find out that females are also interested in purchasing certain items that were previously considered to be used only by the males. For example, you can find out females who are purchasing different kinds of tools, so they could fix up the problems at the home related to electricity or the sanitation problems. You can find out females purchasing computer hardware items, and you can see females flying the fighter jets nowadays. They are the airline pilots. They are even working side by side in the armies. And if you talk about corporate sector, there is huge share of the females. Now you would find females in the government jobs as well. So the question was that why the roles, the gender roles of the males and females are blurring into each other. This question has been subjected to extensive research, and one common clue that researchers could find out was that nowadays homes are dual income economies, which means that males and females, they have to work side by side, and they both have to share the finances of the home. This means that husband and wife, both of them are working together. If this is so, then both of them leave the home early in the morning and they come back late evening. Then who's going to take care of the kids? Students, this is definitely a problem. If both husband and wife are busy, then who's going to take care of the kids? Of course, a very plausible answer is that both of them will have to share time to take care of the kids, which is why you will find out that sometimes nowadays the diapers advertisements are having the male models as well. And the modern day image of the father is that father is changing the diapers of the baby, the father is giving shower to the baby. This domain was considered to be specialized female domain previously, and while fathers used to go away. At this point, I showed you two pictures. The first picture was of professing into the stereotype of the old image of the father, which was a reserved old man or a middle-aged man who's maintaining his distance, is kind of reluctant to feel very, very free with the kids. And then I showed you the picture of a modern father of the current age who was changing the diapers of the baby, or who was giving shower to the baby. And looking at both of the pictures would give you immediate idea as to how the gender roles are changing and how the genders are blurring into each other. So at this point, we went forward to started discussing the next variable included in the demographic segment, that was family. we discussed that family has always been a unit to advertise their products for the marketeers. Marketeers have always been concentrating over the families while they are coming up with their promotional strategies for their products. Because marketeers can always find out all kinds of ages living together in one home. And we defined the family life cycle stages, and we discussed about 4 different types of family life cycle stages, and these included, number 1, a young family. And in young family, different categories could be included, which means young bachelor or single, young married, young divorced, young married with children, and young divorced with children. And similarly, there were middle-aged people, middle-aged families, and the same categories were included in the middle-aged families and older families as well. And then I mentioned that there are sometimes other variables which are used by the marketeers to identify certain kinds of categories amongst the families groups. We discussed that education, age, and income are 3 variables that correlate with each other in almost cause and effect fashion. And we found out that usually high levels of jobs require higher level of education, and since a higher level of education would be necessary to get oneself onto the higher level of job, and higher level of job would bring in higher level of income as well. So usually age, income, and occupation are correlated with each other. We then started discussing the psychographic segmentation as well. And we defined that psychographic segmentation consists of people's lifestyles, their social class, their personality, and their personalities. At this point, we discussed the example of advertisements, and I told you that in advertisements you would always find characters that are playing certain themes. And these characters are always used to depict certain kinds of lifestyles, certain kind of personality characteristics. These characters have their own interests, themes, and opinions, and they come from different social classes. So closely aligned with the psychographic segmentation is psychological research that measures personality as well as attitude of the people. Psychographical profile of a consumer consists of their activities, interests, and opinions. And psychographic profiles can be constituted by using the activities, interests, and opinion inventories. When I talk about the psychographical inventories, I would like to remind you about the attitude scales that we studied in a previous lecture. They may be a semantic differential scale or a Likert scale. And I told you that Likert scale and semantic differential scale are both used to find out the consumer's activities, interests, and opinions. When we talk about the activities, it means that what are those activities in which the consumers are interested? How do they spend their time? And when we talk about the interests of the consumers, it means that what are their basic interests? What kind of products they are interested in? And finally, when we talk about the consumer's opinions, this means that how do they feel about a wide variety of subjects and topics. This may include the political views, this may include their views about the economy of the country, this may include their views about abstract concepts such as that how the institution of family is going on in Pakistan. So students, let us move towards the main theme of our lecture today. Today we are going to discuss 3 more segmentations. These include number 1, sociocultural segmentation, number 2, use-related segmentation, and number 3, usage situation segmentation. So let us talk about the sociocultural segmentation. Students, when we talk about the sociocultural segmentation, you just need to concentrate over the 2 words, sociocultural. When we talk about social, that means we are concerned about the groups, the kinds of groups. And when we talk about the culture, that of course means the cultural and subcultural memberships of the people into various kinds of groups. Talking about the groups may be defined in many different ways, but one easiest way would be that 2 or more people living together and sharing their resources in order to achieve a common objective. This objective may be common as well as their own individual objectives, but the basic theme is that both of these people should be helping each other out in achieving those objectives. The examples of the groups could be 2 intimate neighbors who are living together, and every Sunday they go out together and have their dinner in a particular restaurant. The example of the group could be the local cricket club, where the youngsters of a particular block, they go there and they play cricket, and there is the cricket team of that particular block. The group could be the doctors in a certain hospital, and the group could be colleagues in a certain office. They all spend their times together, and their activities are intertwined in such a way that both of them are in a position to help each other out in achieving their common objectives or their own individual objectives. Students, when we talk about the sociocultural segmentation, there are different variables that we will have to study in this segmentation. These include, as you could see on the slide, number 1, family life cycle, number 2, social class, number 3, core cultural values, number 4, subcultural memberships, and number 5, cross-cultural affiliation. So let us talk about each of these factors individually. We have discussed in a bit of detail the institution of family in our last discussion. Now I am going to just have a slight brush with the institution of family. When we talk about the family life cycle, the most important point is that many families during the phases of their formation, their growth, and their final dissolution, they go through the same stages. And it is perceived by the marketeers that since all of the families on these stages go through the similar kind of circumstances, then the members of the family going through each of these stages would share certain similar characteristics with each other. Which means if a family is going through the stage of initial formation, then they are having certain specific needs that are relevant to their particular stage of the family life cycle. And if they are maturing up, they are growing up, then there are certain other needs that they need to fulfill with reference to their family life cycle, and they would naturally be interested in different kinds of products. And same is the situation when the families are close to dissolution, and dissolution means that families are splitting themselves into more families. From one singular family unit, more families are emerging out. Then, of course, there is different kinds of product preferences, different kinds of ideas that are impacting people. And then after that, once again, the family life cycle starts all over again. Students, let's suppose the family starts from a young single individual who has finished his education and who has started his new job. Job हासिल करने के बाद कुछ अरसे बाद naturally his parents are interested in getting him married. And once he gets married, यहाँ से एक नई फैमिली का आगाज शुरू हो जाता है. लेकिन गौरतलब बात यह है कि जब यंगस्टर्स बैचलर अकोमोडेशंस में रहते हैं और उन्होंने अपनी नई जॉब रिसेंटली शुरू की होती है, तो उनकी प्रोडक्ट प्रेफरेंसेस बिल्कुल डिफरेंट होती हैं. वो डिफरेंट किस्म की चीज़ें खरीदते हैं. हाउएवर जब उनकी शादी हो जाती है तो देन दे स्टार्ट परचेजिंग डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ प्रोडक्ट्स बिकॉज टू people start living together. Now, if you go to their home, you would find out products which are relevant to the purchase needs of the husband and the products which are relevant to the purchase needs of the wife. Going beyond this stage, we find out that this young newly wedded couple, after some time, they have a kid. Now, once the kid is born, then different kinds of products start coming in the home. This is the time when the newly wedded couple is going through the stage of the parenthood. After the stage of the parenthood passes, the parents have grown up the kids up to a certain level where they themselves will become independent individuals, and they go ahead and start their own lives. This is the way it happens. And parents, after they are done with their responsibilities with their kids, then they have ample time by themselves and they can take care of their other needs. For example, parents who have gone through the stage of parenting and who have prepared the kids to take on to their lives and start their lives independently, they now have ample time to purchase different kinds of products. So they might be interested in purchasing very elaborate kind of items, furniture items. They might be interested in redecorating their homes because their major finances that were previously going on in raising up the children are now left with themselves. On the other hand, the newly wedded couple, when they start their life, their furniture is of very basic nature, and the kinds of products that they purchase are also very basic nature, which are used at the start of establishing a new home. However, the institution of family is very, very strong in Pakistan, and yet a stage has to come where parents and their children would go away from each other and stay apart from each other. Usually in the homes in Pakistan, families are living together. So after with their daughters-in-laws and their sons-in-laws, in a way that they have to spend a lot of money to fulfill the family rituals, in which they have to purchase products not only for themselves but their daughter-in-laws and their sons-in-laws as well. Gradually, the newly wedded couple starts having children, and now the grandparents are interested in raising up their grandchildren, and once again they start having the touch of the family the way they had started their own family way back in the old times. So this way, the older people stay connected with their families. An important point to ponder here is कि जो सीनियर लोग होते हैं उनका प्रोफेशनल एक्सपीरियंस इतना ज़्यादा हो जाता है कि एक ऑक्यूपेशन में उन्होंने इतना टाइम गुजारा होता है कि आहिस्ता आहिस्ता उनके रिसोर्सेज जो हैं वो बढ़ते जाते हैं और उनका इनकम लेवल भी बढ़ता जाता है और फाइनली वो ज़्यादा इनकम स्टोर कर सकते हैं, जिसकी वजह से उनकी बाइंग कैपेसिटी भी एनलार्ज हो जाती है. सो मार्केटियर्स नोट दिस पॉइंट ऑल्सो and they take into consideration the very fact that sometimes the senior people will have to purchase products that they are actually purchasing for their younger children or their grandchildren. So we talked about the direct and indirect power of purchasing in our last lecture. So this way marketeers not only try to directly impact the thinking of the older men, but they also try to impact the thinking of the younger generation so that they could impact the purchase decision which is going to be made by the senior individuals who have the power to purchase. So this way, marketeers have always been focusing very keenly upon the unit of the family, because in the family they find out all kinds of individuals under one roof. The stages of the family that are worth noticing are something like this. Number one is bachelorhood. And when we say bachelorhood, you might start thinking that what are the products that bachelors usually buy? The second stage is newly married couples. Now, you may once again think about that, what kind of products do the newly married couples purchase? The third stage is parenthood. The fourth stage is post-parenthood. And finally, there is dissolution, which actually means that family is growing larger and it is splitting itself into more families. So from one family, more families are being created. Students, this was about the family, the variable of the family included in the sociocultural segmentation. Now let's move towards the next variable included in the sociocultural segment. Students, the next variable included in the sociocultural segment is social class. हम social class के बारे में direct और indirect references अक्सर सुनते रहते हैं. Movies में, dramas में, general life के अंदर भी हम social class के references को अक्सर सुनते रहते हैं. So you might come across sentences like, well, this place is not my style. Well, I would not purchase this pair of shoes because this is not up to my standard. You might come across certain dialogues in the plays in which a gentleman might be saying, "Oh जी हम job वॉब नहीं करते, हम जिम्मेदार लोग हैं और हम जिम्मेदारी करते हैं." Or another youngster might say, "वो जी हम job नहीं कर सकते क्योंकि हमारा अपना business है और हम अपने business की देखभाल करते हैं और हम किसी की नौकरी क्यों करें." All these sentences are actually direct or indirect references to the social class. Have you ever thought what is a social class? Let us now define what social class actually means. Social class is a hierarchy in which the individuals in the same class generally have the same degree or status, whereas the members of other classes have a higher or lower status. Students, this means that social class consists of a group of people जहाँ पर जो भी लोग उस group का part होते हैं उनका status equal होता है, which means कि उनका rights and responsibilities are fairly similar. उनको एक जैसा treat किया जाता है, उनके एक जैसे rights दिए जाते हैं उनको. और एक सोशल क्लास के लोगों को दूसरे लोगों से, दूसरी सोशल क्लास के लोगों से डिफरेंशिएट इस तरह से किया जा सकता है कि किसी दूसरी सोशल क्लास के लोग एक खास सोशल क्लास से हायर स्टेटस के हो सकते हैं या उससे लोअर स्टेटस के हो सकते हैं. So there is always a way to discriminate between the people from one social class and the people coming from another social class. Now you can imagine that social class can be very effectively used by the marketeers to target certain segments or to group the consumers in certain segments. Because when marketeers understand that they have to market their products, then they have to design specific individually tailored marketing mixes which are relevant to the certain social class. Products, ऐसी products जो बहुत cheap हों, वो शायद एक social class जो बहुत elite class है उसके लोगों को inspire ना कर सके. और similarly ऐसी products जो बहुत ज़्यादा महंगी हों, वो शायद lower social status या lower socio-economic category के लोग परचेज ही ना कर सकें, उनकी परचेजिंग पावर ही ना हो उस प्रोडक्ट को खरीदने के लिए, तो वो प्रोडक्ट उस socio-economic category के अंदर मार्केट ही नहीं की जा सकती. Now, marketeers have to go through painstaking researches in order to identify the social class of their target consumers. So marketeers, when they are designing their marketing strategies to market their products in certain groups of people, they have to understand that what is the social class in which they are taking their product. And specialized marketing mixes are designed for each class. We have discussed already at the start of the discussion that social class is a huge base that is so frequently used by the marketeers to categorize their target consumers. And once they understand that what is the social class, their norms, their patterns of behavior, their beliefs and their value system, then they can tune into that particular social class in a more effective manner. Students, marketeers offer products to the consumers with reference to their status of wealth as well. In Pakistan, let me give you an example. Every time you go to purchase a product, bargaining is usually a usual norm. कुछ चंद इंटरनेशनल चेन ऑफ स्टोर्स के अलावा और चंद लोकली नेशनली इस्टेब्लिश्ड स्टोर्स के अलावा यूजुअली तकरीबन तमाम किस्म की दुकानों पर आपको जाके बार्गेनिंग करनी पड़ती है और बार्गेनिंग करने के बहुत से मुख्तलिफ स्टाइल्स हैं. लेकिन शॉपकीपर्स का पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू यूजुअली बार्गेनिंग में ये होता है कि वो सबसे पहले ये जानने की कोशिश करते हैं कि कस्टमर का सोशल क्लास क्या है, वो किस सोशो इकोनॉमिक बैकग्राउंड से ताल्लुक़ रखता है, क्योंकि बार्गेनिंग शॉपकीपर को अलाउ करती है कि वो अपनी प्रोडक्ट की प्राइस को एक ख़ास रेंज के अंदर स्ट्रेच कर सकता है या एक ख़ास रेंज के अंदर उस प्राइस को मिनिमाइज कर सकता है, कीपिंग इन कंसिडरेशन द सोशल क्लास ऑफ देयर टारगेट कंज्यूमर. सो अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स इट हैपन्स इन द मार्केट दैट यू गो to a particular shop and the shopkeeper entices you into purchasing a certain product. A popular example is more like this. एक खातून मार्केट में कपड़े खरीदने जाती हैं और वो मुख्तलिफ किस्मों के कपड़े देख रही हैं एक दुकान पर खड़ी होके, and the shopkeeper rolls a piece of cloth in front of the lady and he says, बाजी ये खास कपड़ा सिर्फ आपके लिए ही है, अगर आप इस कपड़े को पहनेंगी तो आपकी क्लास का लोगों को पता चलेगा, ये खास किस्म का कपड़ा सिर्फ आपके लिए ही डिजाइन किया गया है. Now बाजी on the other hand is a little reluctant at this kind of discussion because she knows that now the price is going to be huge and she says तो इसकी प्राइस क्या होगी, और जी प्राइस को आप छोड़िए, अगर आपने सस्ती चीज़ें लेनी है तो आप दूसरी दुकानों पर भी जा सकती हैं, लेकिन मुझे पता है कि आपके लिए तो प्राइस मैटर ही नहीं करती क्योंकि आप एक खास सोशल क्लास से बिलोंग करती हैं और आपका अंदाज लोगों को नजर आना चाहिए. So this is one of the ways that even the shopkeepers are categorizing their target consumers with reference to their social class. Talking about the organization's example, you might have noticed that financial institutions, when they are marketing their financial services to the socioeconomic category of the richer people, then they come up with various investment plans. These investment plans require the consumers to pay a lot of money that will be invested in certain projects, and the customers can get the profit out of their investments. However, when they are making the financial packages or financial services packages for the people who come from the middle class or the lower middle class, then they are usually offering them different kinds of savings accounts, then or certificates of deposit as well. So students, social class is an important consideration for the marketeer, but social class is also a very, very sensitive issue. One must not be appearing to be biased towards a certain social class. And in this discussion, we are talking about social class in a very blatant fashion, in a very blatant manner. The problem is that marketeers really have to identify that what is the social class of the people while they are conducting researches. Because अगर वो अपनी product को एक middle class के अंदर market करना चाह रहे हैं, तो उनको उसके लिए research करनी पड़ती है, और research करने के लिए सबसे basic consideration ये होती है कि जो respondents questionnaires को fill करेंगे या जो interview के लिए आएंगे या focus group discussions में participate करने के लिए आएंगे, क्या वो रिस्पोंडेंट्स जो हैं वो रिक्वायर्ड सोशियो इकोनॉमिक कैटेगरी से बिलोंग करते हैं? अगर आप इस किस्म की रिसर्च कर रहे हों और आपका डायलेमा ये हो कि आपको लोगों की सोशल क्लास को आइडेंटिफाई करना है, तो आप इसको किस तरह से कर सकेंगे? The problem is that you cannot go straight away to a person and ask him or her which socioeconomic category do you belong to, because this is a very, very biased question. This is very provocative question, and you might not get the right kind of response for this. So, socioeconomic status is calculated as a weighted index of a number of variables. And this includes education, occupation, and income. Usually questionnaires include different questions that are asking the respondent's education level. It is hypothesized that higher the education level, the higher the income capacity of that individual might be. Then you ask about their occupation. From which occupation do they come from? What are the jobs that they are doing? Either they are doing business or they are working with certain organizations. And then finally, if you have created enough space, then you could provide them with different income ranges that they can mark on their own. But one must be very, very careful in phrasing these questions in a way that they do not create bias and they are not perceived as provocative. Shopkeeper's example will be more relevant in the particular scenario. Once again, usually पाकिस्तान के अंदर मेल्स की जो क्लोथिंग है उसको मुख्तलिफ किस्म के जगहों से खरीदा जा सकता है. There are stores जो ब्रांडेड कपड़े बेचते हैं. Then there are markets जहाँ से आप नॉन ब्रांडेड कपड़े भी खरीद सकते हैं. जब आप नॉन ब्रांडेड कपड़ों की मार्केट के अंदर जाते हैं तो वहाँ पर once again you will have to come across the bias, you will have to come across the bargaining aspect of the entire transaction of purchasing certain clothes for yourself. बार्गेनिंग शुरू करने से पहले शॉपकीपर्स यूजुअली ये अंदाज़ा लगाने की कोशिश करते हैं कि इन साहब का ताल्लुक किस सोशो इकोनॉमिक कैटेगरी से है. सो यू माइट कम अक्रॉस अ शॉपकीपर हु स्टार्ट्स आस्किंग यू very general questions in a very neutral fashion, and it appears that he is trying to be friends with that particular gentleman. Usually the questions are, sir आप क्या करते हैं? आप थके हुए तो नहीं? आपके लिए ठंडा लेके आए? अच्छा, तो आप किस किस्म की जॉब करते हैं? अच्छा, आप बैंक के अंदर काम करते हैं? तो आपने डिग्री कौन सी की हुई है? अच्छा, आपने MBA किया हुआ है? तो कितने अरसे से आप जॉब कर रहे हैं? अच्छा, माशाल्लाह से 5 साल से जॉब कर रहे हैं. So these are the questions that are helping the shopkeeper build up the rapport, but simultaneously the shopkeeper is having a very good idea as to what is the socioeconomic status of a particular gentleman. And when he gets the right kind of answers, the price might be elevated. And if the answers are going on the other side, then the price might be decreased so that the product could be made purchasable for that particular gentleman. So, socioeconomic class is one very powerful base according to which marketeers usually categorize their target consumers so that the products could be designed accordingly and the products could be priced accordingly. Students, let's move on to the next variable that is included in the sociocultural segment. The next variable included in the sociocultural segment is culture and subcultural memberships. हम कल्चर के बारे में भी अक्सर औकात डायरेक्ट और इनडायरेक्ट रेफरेंसेस सुनते आते हैं. ये हमारे मुल्क का कल्चर नहीं है. हमारे मुल्क के कल्चर में ख़वातीन इस तरह से ड्रेसअप होती हैं. हमारे मुल्क के कल्चर में यंगस्टर्स को इस तरह से ड्रेसअप होना चाहिए, हमारे मुल्क के कल्चर में यंगस्टर्स बड़ों की रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं, पेरेंट्स की रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं, और हमारे मुल्क के कल्चर में पेरेंट्स जो हैं वो छोटे बच्चों का ख्याल रखते हैं, बहन भाई एक दूसरे का साथ देते हैं. You come across various sentences and various phrases in the daily life that are actually pertaining to the cultural values prevalent in a certain segment of the people. Pakistan is a huge country. पाकिस्तान के अंदर बेशुमार किस्म के टेरेंस हैं, बेशुमार किस्म के जियोग्राफिक टेरेंस हैं, और अगर आप कभी पाकिस्तान के सफ़र पर निकलें तो यू विल फाइंड आउट कि तकरीबन हर 25 से 30 मील के बाद लैंग्वेज के अंदर थोड़ी सी चेंज आ जाती है. अगर आप लाहौर में हैं तो वहाँ पर पंजाबी एक डिफरेंट तरीके से बोली जाती है. अगर आप रावलपिंडी के शहर में हैं तो वहाँ पर पंजाबी एक डिफरेंट तरीके से बोली जाती है. रावलपिंडी से आपको तकरीबन 2 घंटे लगते हैं पेशावर पहुँचने में, और वहाँ पर लैंग्वेज एंटायरली डिफरेंट हो जाती है और आपको अपने आप को उस माहौल के मुताबिक एडजस्ट करना पड़ता है. To give you a better example of the culture, let me remind you of the Pakistan movement. पाकिस्तान मूवमेंट के चैंपियन थे मोहम्मद अली जिन्ना. He was fighting for the cause कि इंडो पाक के मुसलमानों के लिए उनके कल्चर के मुताबिक एक अलहदा से होमलैंड बनाया जाए जहाँ पे मुसलमान अपने कल्चर और अपने रिलीजियस बिलीफ्स को प्रैक्टिस कर सकें. और ये वो बेसिक थीम था जिसके ऊपर पाकिस्तान की सारी स्ट्रगल को ऑर्गेनाइज किया गया. Later on, Allama Iqbal came up with very daring poetic verses that would inspire the people so much that they would align with this cause. Everything was coming out of the culture. That was the first time in the history that a separate nation was created based upon their cultural and religious preferences. So culture is a huge way for the marketeers to target, to segment the consumers into different kinds of groups. So what actually the culture is? Let us define culture. Culture refers to relatively specialized lifestyle of a group consisting of their beliefs, values, artifacts, ways of behaving, ways of communicating that is passed on from one generation to the next. Culture का मतलब है कि एक खास लोगों के ग्रुप के क्या बिलीव्स हैं, उनका क्या वैल्यू सिस्टम है जिसको वो प्रैक्टिस करते हैं, उनका रिलीजन क्या है, वो किस किस्म के आर्टिफैक्ट्स को डेवलप कर रहे हैं, उनका आर्ट क्या है, और इसके अलावा वो किस किस्म की प्रोडक्ट्स बनाते हैं, किस किस्म की प्रोडक्ट्स खरीदते हैं, किस किस्म के प्रोडक्ट फीचर्स के अंदर इंटरेस्टेड हैं. ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स एक्चुअली परटेन टू देयर कल्चर. सो व्हाट इज इंक्लूडेड इन द कल्चर? कल्चर के अंदर हम क्या क्या चीज़ें शामिल कर सकते हैं. Let me show you the slide. Included in the culture will be all that members of a culture have produced and developed. Their languages, their modes of thinking, their art, their laws, and their religion. So, let us talk about certain industries that exclusively focus over the cultural segments. And when we talk about the culture, we could talk about the Pakistani marriage as well. Pakistani marriage consists of elaborate set of rituals which are practiced in greater detail. There are norms on the boys' side of the family, there are norms on the girls' side of the family. पाकिस्तान में शादी जो है वो एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग और दिलचस्प किस्म का फंक्शन होता है, और इसमें लड़के और लड़की के ख़ानदान की तरफ से मुख्तलिफ़ किस्म के नॉर्म्स प्रैक्टिस किए जाते हैं जो इस खूबसूरत फंक्शन को मज़ीद खूबसूरत बना देते हैं. सो लेट अस टॉक अबाउट द नॉर्म्स दैट आर इंक्लूडेड इन अ पाकिस्तानी मैरिज. द पाकिस्तानी मैरिज स्टार्ट्स यूजुअली फ्रॉम द मैच मेकिंग. मैच मेकिंग का मतलब है कि पाकिस्तान के अंदर लड़कों और लड़कियों की शादी करवाने के लिए उनके आपस में रिश्ते करवाए जाते हैं, और मैच मेकिंग का इंस्टीट्यूशन जो है वो हमारी ज़मीन के ऊपर बहुत अरसे से चलता आ रहा है और बहुत पुराना है. पुराने ज़माने में ऐसे लोग मैच मेकिंग करते थे जो किसी एक गांव के ज़्यादातर लोगों को जानते हैं, और वो एक घर से दूसरे घर में जाते थे और रिश्तों की बातचीत जो है वो चलाई जाती थी. सो इट ऑल स्टार्ट्स फ्रॉम द मैच मेकिंग. आजकल के ज़माने में मैच मेकिंग जो है वो बहुत प्रोफेशनल इंडस्ट्री की शक्ल इख्तियार कर चुका है. अब मैच मेकिंग के लिए स्पेशलाइज्ड इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं, स्पेशलाइज्ड ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं जो मैच मेकिंग सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करते हैं अपने टारगेट कंज्यूमर्स को. इस किस्म की सर्विस को हासिल करने के लिए टारगेट कंज्यूमर्स ना सिर्फ उनके अपने मुल्क में होते हैं, पाकिस्तान में हो सकते हैं, बल्कि ऐसे लोग भी हो सकते हैं जो पाकिस्तान से बाहर ज़िंदगी गुजार रहे हैं और उनको अपने बेटे या बेटियों के अगर रिश्ते करवाने हैं तो वो ऐसे इंस्टीट्यूशंस और ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से कांटेक्ट कर सकते हैं. जहाँ पर उनकी रिक्वायरमेंट्स के मुताबिक उनको रिश्ते प्रोवाइड किए जा सकते हैं, उनको दिखाए जा सकते हैं और वो अपनी मर्जी के मुताबिक फैसला कर सकते हैं. Simultaneously with the advent of internet, now matchmaking, the modern face of the matchmaking is the matchmaking websites. You can log on to a number of websites जहाँ पर matchmaking facility provide की जाती है, and people can simply log on to those websites. They can become their members, they can upload their profiles, और उन प्रोफाइल्स को दूसरे बहुत से लोग देख सकते हैं और मैच मेकिंग को फैसिलिटेट किया जा सकता है. यूजुअली देयर इज अ सर्टेन फीस अटैच्ड फॉर अपलोडिंग समवन्स प्रोफाइल ऑन दीज वेबसाइट्स. मैच मेकिंग के बाद जब रिश्ता तय हो जाता है एंड व्हेन टू फैमिलीज डिसाइड that they are going to marry their son or daughter, the next thing is the requisite functions of the marriage. These include, number one, it all starts from an engagement, where the boy's family goes to the girl's family and the boy makes the girl wear a ring, and that is called the engagement ring. Engagement के function को specialize किया जाता है बहुत सारे event managing companies के अंदर. बहुत सी इवेंट मैनेजमेंट कंपनीज के अंदर बहुत सारे इंटीरियर डेकोरेटर्स होते हैं जिनकी स्पेशलाइज्ड एरिया होता है एंगेजमेंट फंक्शंस को डेकोरेट करना और उनको ऑर्गेनाइज करना और उनको इफेक्टिवली कंडक्ट करवाना इस तरह से कि किसी को कोई प्रॉब्लम ना हो. यूजुअली ये इंटीरियर डेकोरेटर्स होते हैं वो कल्चरल आर्टिफैक्ट्स के अंदर स्पेशलाइज करते हैं. एंगेजमेंट सेरेमनीज का एक थीम होता है और उस थीम के मुताबिक वो उस पूरे हॉल को डेकोरेट करते हैं या उस पूरे एनवायरनमेंट को डेकोरेट करते हैं. इफ यू look at the hotels industry, you would find out that a major portion of the hotel industry is generating their revenue out of organizing the engagement functions in their halls. Simultaneously, there are a lot of marriage halls all over the country जहाँ पर लोग जिसको लोग engagement functions के लिए hire कर सकते हैं. After the engagement, the story proceeds towards marriage. Now, marriage in itself is a detailed and very long function. It starts from Mehndi, and then there is Barat, and finally there is Walima. Now, there are special decorators who specialize in organizing Mehndi functions and conducting them effectively. There are specialized professionals whose main theme is to create beautiful marriage functions. होटल इंडस्ट्री के अंदर यूजुअली ऐसे प्रोफेशनल्स हायर किए जाते हैं जो सिर्फ और सिर्फ शादी के फंक्शंस को ऑर्गेनाइज कर सकें और शादी के फंक्शंस को मजीद खूबसूरत से खूबसूरत बना सकें. एंड होटल इंडस्ट्री इज जनरेटिंग अ लॉट ऑफ रेवेन्यू आउट ऑफ these marriage functions. मैरिज को अगर आप गौर से देखें तो इसमें सिर्फ फंक्शंस ही नहीं होते बल्कि इसके अलावा भी बेशुमार दूसरे रिचुअल्स होते हैं, मुख्तलिफ रसूम और रवाज होते हैं जो लड़की की फैमिली को और लड़के की फैमिली को दोनों को फुलफिल करने पड़ते हैं. मिसाल के तौर पर देयर इज अ कस्टम ऑफ डाउरी दैट इज प्रेवलेंट इन पाकिस्तान, विच मीन्स के लड़की की फैमिली को जहेज तैयार करना पड़ता है और जहेज में वो तकरीबन सारी चीज़ें शामिल की जा सकती हैं जो एक न्यूली वेडेड कपल को अपनी लाइफ स्टार्ट करने में मदद दें. एंड there are specialist retailers who specialize in making the dowry packages, and the dowry packages are actually catering for the dowry needs of different socioeconomic categories as well. If this is a lower socioeconomic category, then the items number and quality is equally reduced, and if it comes from the very higher socioeconomic status, then the items and the quality of the product is extremely increased. Similarly, on the other hand, on the boys' side, लड़कों को usually बरी बनानी पड़ती है. That includes clothes for the bride as well as jewelry for the bride. And there are various retailers who specialize in the bari packages as well. They are making use of this cultural ritual and they are specializing in providing products to the people who have to fulfill these rituals. Similarly, there are walima dinners that are organized sometimes in a very pompous fashion and that are organized sometimes in a very simple fashion. So, marriage is a huge industry and there are marketeers who are specializing in marketing the marriage-related products in the Pakistani communities. Students, away from the cultural segmentation, we can talk about the subcultural segmentation as well. What is subcultural segmentation? Let us define it. Within the larger culture, distinct subgroups or subcultures are often united by certain experiences, values. Students, these groupings can be based upon certain demographic characteristics as well. I mean, people could come close to each other because they come from a certain race, a certain religion, a certain caste. People may come close to each other because they have certain age, or they come from a certain socioeconomic background. There could be subcultural groups of joggers, or there could be subcultural groups of the teachers. Then there could be subcultural groups of the tennis players or the cricket players who come together because they share certain similar characteristics that come from their race, religion, their particular lifestyle, their particular tastes. There could be many reasons for the subcultural groups to be created. Now, marketeers identify that different subcultural groups can exist out there, and they usually segment their target consumers with reference to their subcultural groupings as well. For example, if you happen to be going to America, one major problem that you would come across with reference to food will be that बहुत कम जगहों पर आपको हलाल गोश्त मिलेगा, और बहुत कम जगहों पर आपको हलाल गोश्त मिलेगा, और ऐसी फूड्स मिलेंगी जो हलाल गोश्त के साथ तैयार की गई हैं. But there are certain retailers, even in the big cities of America, who specialize in providing the Muslim food, or who create Muslim restaurants just to gather up the consumers who come from the Muslim backgrounds. Now, in a country like America, Muslims can be from many different countries, from many different Muslim countries. So all of these Muslims become the target consumers for these specialized restaurants who are catering for the need of this subcultural group of Muslims living in America. Students, now let's move on to the next variable included in the sociocultural segment, and this is called cross-cultural or global market. It is very easy to understand. Today, you must have realized that in our world, we have come very close to each other, and this has been made possible by the internet or the cable television. Today, we are as close to a gentleman sitting in America as we are to a gentleman sitting in another city in Pakistan. Because of the fact that world is becoming smaller, the marketeers have realized that there is a global market emerging up. Now you could log on to the website of any international brand, and you could check out different kinds of products, and you could make a purchase order over there. If you talk about these international brands, now they have to specialize in coming up with products that could be marketed to the consumers that exist out there in the entire world. So a lot of discussion has been going on in the marketing research and consumer research segments as how could be an effective marketing strategy created that could cater for the consumers existing in different parts of the world. So cross-cultural and global market segmentation is a big challenge that the consumer industry is facing, and they are coming up with the relevant innovations and relevant developments. To give you an example of the cross-cultural segmentation, let us suppose there is a gentleman who is listening to this lecture. He might be drinking a carbonated soft drink जो अमेरिका से ओरिजिनेट हुआ. वो साहब शायद एक ट्राउज़र पहना हो उन्होंने जो डोमिनिकन रिपब्लिक से इंपोर्ट किया गया हो. Maybe that gentleman is wearing a pair of sneakers that is imported from China. He's wearing a watch that was imported from Korea. So there are so many things that a gentleman could be wearing which are coming from far off countries. And consumers in one country might not have even heard about these countries जहाँ की products उन्होंने पहनी हुई होती हैं और जहाँ की products वो इस्तेमाल कर रहे होते हैं. An international brand of sneakers use the same global strategy to market their new brand of sneakers in 140 countries. So you might understand, students, that the new phase of marketing is catering for the needs of consumers who come from many different countries. The challenge is to come up with a promotional and advertisement strategy that would cater for the needs of consumers in different areas of the world. So when creating a global segmentation strategy, they have to understand that what is the international culture. And one proposition is to understand the international culture or the global market culture in all of its intricacies and conceive of international culture as a separate culture that is away from the local culture or regional culture or the geographic culture. Students, now let's move towards the next segmentation base that we are going to study. This is called use-related segmentation. However, before we discuss use-related segmentation in detail, let me tell you that so far we have discussed in detail. Number 1, geographic segmentation. Number 2, demographic segmentation. Number 3, sociocultural segmentation. And now we will move towards the use-related segmentation as well as the usage situation segmentation. However, I am given the caution that we are running short of time and I will have to finish the lecture over here. So अगले lecture में मिलते हैं and we will discuss use-related segmentation and usage situation segmentation. और अब मुझे इजाज़त दीजिए, अपना ख्याल रखिएगा, take care of yourself. Goodbye, Allah Hafiz.